comment that related to the architecture or materials that we have. So let's see if I have any other. Yeah, I think that's also. If you have any questions for me, or we can.
In the design standard, I know that stucco is considered a secondary material, which is why it's 20%. I know there are other items listed in that secondary material category. So is it 20% total?
For each facade. So each facade can only have 20%.
I mean, if it's 10% vinyl siding and 10% stucco, if both of those are secondary, can they each have 20%, or do they have to collectively add up to 20%?
That's a good question. I'm not sure on that. I think the way the code is written is it's per material. But it's just, yeah, it's a good question. I can look that up maybe while they're talking, but yeah, that's a good question.
Cool. Do your team want to walk us through some of the renderings, or?
So like Dustin said, there is a little bit of stucco on the building. The owners wanted to go with a more or less contemporary modern style without being ultra modern, right? There's some of the ultra modern stuff. They wanted to keep it in check that way. So that's the design cues we took. There is some ACM panels, so those aluminum composite panels on that front corner entry. So that front corner is handled a little different than everything else. That dark gray, that charcoal color. And those are all coming through quite a bit darker than, like, that brick is a lighter brick. It probably shows on the actual color board a little bit better, but it's a lighter brick, that wood paneling is a little bit lighter than that. So, but that corner element, we've got a rooftop deck on it. So they wanted a rooftop deck on the corner to be able to capture views of Temp and all the mountains and stuff. So what we did to not make it seem like it was secondary is we were able to keep that corner prominent by just covering a portion of that upper rooftop deck. So there's a portion of it that's uncovered, which is nice. It gives you the open air and the sun and everything. And then there's a portion of it that is covered that keeps that prominent corner element there. The base is brick, kind of wraps the corners too. So it kind of frames the project. And then it's just kind of this rhythm of the ephes and the cement board siding, the wood grain cement board siding, everywhere else. We do have a parking garage, but we've, mainly below grade. There's a little bit above grade, but it's tucked back behind. We've concealed it from the streets. So the whole frontage is you see building and brick and glass on the main level. So, yeah, as far as from an exterior standpoint, that's where we're at. I don't know if you have any questions as far as that goes. We'll look into the 20%. That's new. I didn't know that was, so we'll check that out. And if we have to modify and reduce the ephes a little bit, then we'll for sure do that. So,
yeah. You have let's see. So the dark corner that we've got here, is that the northeast corner of that project?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So on the opposite side here, the rendering is like a little bit hard to tell. Is that okay? So that is like a floating corner. That's
the north side. That's where you get into the garage, the main level garage.
So you drive under a part of the structure. Okay.
If you're going to the other side, so the other elevation, the east, that's how you access the below grade. It's kind of over on the left. It's kind of a similar thing. And that looks like that rendering is not quite updated with our last one, but there's an access to the underground garage from that side. So, yep.
Cool. So we'll go through and ask questions I've got just one or two more.
Dumpster, just real quick, dumpster
yeah.
and that sort of thing is all located in the garage. So none of that's visible from the street.
Okay. For this darker corner, like you've said, it is a little bit lighter. That material there, is that material used anywhere else on the project or any other similar color?
It's more that aluminum composite stuff, the nice metal, they have the nice recesses, the reveal joints in them. Just an aluminum composite panel. And it's right now, that's the only place is just on that entry. Yeah, but that one's the one on 400 element. It's kind of hard to tell that it's even metal. It's white. So it almost appears like stucco or Yeah. But this, you'll be able to tell more that it's with that color. It'll appear more metal. You'll definitely see, okay, that's a different material.
So will it have a sheen to it then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
Let's see.
That upper portion of it, you can see that's where it's open, where that person is standing on that upper corner. That's that kind of open air. So you'd have, it's covered, but you capture the views northeast almost uninterrupted. So should be we'll have fire pits and different things up there. So.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
Does the corner where it's diagonal cut off that shows that on the first floor, does that carry all the way up?
Right now it's just first floor. So that aluminum composite panel stuff, the ACM would be cantilevered kind of out over that corner. So it kind of, you've got the canopy that will give you a cover on that corner piece, but also the upper level will, which we think visually that'll look better. It'll look good too, just to have that change in direction at level, I guess it's about level 2 where it would happen. But yeah, that at the main level, you're right. There's a 45-degree cut for the sight vision triangle of the.
Well, and maybe this is probably a question more for staff than it is for you. Go back to the floor plan or the site plan. See the clear vision triangle, and I see it.
There, if this one
far
doesn't
out.
show it correct, I don't think this is from the landscape plan. I was just looking at that today and wondering whether it came up.
I'm
with
just
that.
wondering why it needs to be cut off at the corner if the clear vision triangle is so far off.
That's what I'm saying. I think theirs is wrong. And so I just noticed theirs was that way today. If you look at our floor plan, the architectural floor plan, the way I had read it, and we'll go back and look at it, but that vision triangle started from I think the walk, and they're showing it here. It looks like from the street.
Curb, yeah.
So we'll take a look at that. But the way I interpreted it, this is several weeks ago, is that it was based off of the walks. And so that's why we've shown it the way we've shown it.
So I don't, Dustin, can you give some feedback there?
We can.
I mean, as an architect, I would rather the corner be solid there rather than cut off, especially given the visual weight of the material that you've chosen above it. It looks really heavy to me with the glass below it. And so to have that corner actually support it visually, I think would be a better solution. But again, I understand the ramifications of their vision triangle. So.
Yeah, so on the clear vision corner, I believe they do go 25 feet back from the property line corner where the sidewalk typically would be. But Public Works would be the one that we can just follow up on that. It doesn't have to, the clear vision doesn't have to go all the way up to the top of the building. It would just be at I believe the first 10 feet or so of the elevation, and then the upper levels could extend out into that area.
And maybe there might be some ways to handle that. If it feels heavy, we can investigate that a little further. Whether or not it's some sort of a base, maybe that canopy moves up right below that, those ACM panels, and that kind of gives it another structure that feels like it's got some more mass there or something. But we can look at that. But I guess first we'll find out if we have to, even if it is where we show it or where the landscape architect's showing it. That'd be the first step, I guess.
I've had the same issue.
Yeah.
Different drawings showing it different ways and different interpretations. So
Yep.
You're good.
And program for the first level is units. Is that right?
Yeah. So against on the streets, you've got units. Obviously in the corner, that's kind of your administrative kind of reception when you come in. That's where they, leasing and all that. Level 2, so they got parking on the backside that's hidden. That's on level 1, and then you go up to level 2, and that's where kind of most of the amenities are. That's where we've got a clubhouse, exercise room at about 3,000 square feet, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 square feet of exterior courtyard space that has seating, kitchen, outdoor kitchen, benches, pickleball court, stuff like that, planter boxes. So you got trees and shrubs, and so level 2 is where a lot of the amenities are. That's where the deck sitting on that parking garage is. Yeah. Level 1 is apartments on the street. And we do meet the doors I think it's 40 feet. I want to say it's every 40 feet, 40, 50 feet. Maybe it's 50. I think it's every 50 feet with an entrance. So
I saw on the map that it was mostly other apartment buildings, but has anybody expressed concern about the height and blocking the mountains?
Have you guys heard anything? Anything through?
So how does this square footage and price point compare to the project you just finished right next to it? Is this comparable unit size, price point, or is it a little bit different?
Really similar type product. Same type units, really similar product of the same thing that's been done across the street. This building is 5 stories. Okay.
Yeah, this building is 5 stories. The building across the street is 4 stories. We were constrained a little bit on our parking, making our parking work. So we've gone underground and also behind to make our parking count work on this building. But yeah, very similar in price point on as far as unit mix, sizing of the units and everything else like that.
Cool. Can we go back to the colored facade? Cool. Any other questions from us?
On the other project, have all those units been filled? Is that?
Yeah. So we completed that project in May of 2001, and we are anticipating that project to take approximately 6 months to fill, and it was about 6 weeks, and the building was completely 100% full. And yeah, it's there's definitely a need for housing and people that want to live downtown. And so, yeah, I think it's a great project. Great. I mean, it's definitely improving the area. If you look at the area of what's there and what's coming up, I think that the downtown area and that stuff that's south of the direct downtown, it's a great area and it's getting improved. So, okay.
One other quick question. The rectangle inside the charcoal paneling that's darker black with white, is that signage or?
I believe so, Corey, the vertical.
You're just talking about that black piece?
Yeah.
That would just be some sort, it's just designating some sort of signage. There's probably a, whatever apartments, whatever the name of it is, just kind of showing a place for it.
Is there any exterior lighting on the structure?
We haven't gotten to that necessarily, but I would guess like on the last one, we probably had on the balconies, on all those doors on the balconies, there's lighting there. Front entries, obviously the public entries, there'd be lighting there, but
Seems like we had.
If we follow similar to what we did on Element, we've got sconce lighting that's at those exterior doors. Then each one of those balcony decks has got is lit from above. So there's lighting above each one of those balconies, those decks on each of those units. So,
but there's no specific lighting to emphasize architecture or
the light that built to the building.
we didn't do
anything like that. A lot of the constraint is I guess we could try to incorporate that with the downtown streetscape. There's so much requirements in that as far as your paving and your area between the back of sidewalk and all that's got to take place there. Maybe there's a way that you could get some ground lights that were to shine on the building. The problem is it's residential units. So you're people are trying to sleep at night, right? And so maybe some accent lighting or something from above or something like that. But
I just know, I think you have a focal point, your dark corner here that kind of stands out, and just some other really nice projects that have been done in Provo usually kind of accentuate that at night. So, but it's not a requirement or anything. I just was curious if that was your decision or.
It might be a good idea. There's an element around that corner that wraps it that does kind of a little eave that you could put some downlighting from that would highlight that whole corner, the glass, the sign, and
downlighting would be preferred anyway.
Over the top in your face, right? More subtle, but definitely showing the entryway, so to speak.
Are all the ins and outs of the plan that didn't get expressed elevation wise, are those required per the zoning? It's been a long time since I've done a project here in Provo, so there's so much going on, the little thin strips of the fiber cement siding on either side of the stucco, they feel strange to me. And it's because of the.
That's on a
offset there.
recess, yeah, where you're seeing those little strips, it's
Right.
back,
Right.
right, it's back.
And that's why I
3 or
asked
4
about
feet.
the ins and outs. I mean,
Mhm.
if that could, could that be cleaned up a little bit without having all the ins and outs to create a more. There's a lot going on, right? You've got 4 different materials, which could be debated, but I don't have too much of an issue with it. I think it's really those really thin strips of the wood that make it so busy visually that I struggle with. So,
And that could be, I think, maybe with more of a 3D representation, you'd see that it would show that it's more, like I say, it is more recessed, and that white, that ephes does wrap around the corner and goes
sure.
back,
No,
right?
and I understand that. I mean,
So it's, I can, I see what you're saying. At the same time, I feel like in reality, it's maybe not as small of a strip in a 3-dimensional form, right? Sometimes it's, a little bit more difficult to read it in 2D, but
That's about a 4-foot recess for you, huh?
probably 3 or 4 feet. Yeah.
there's 4 feet.
And I would just add, I think one of the reasons these exist in a lot of projects in the area is the balcony requirement pushes some of the facade back.
Yeah. You've got to have 50 square feet minimum on these.
Right.
So
I
it does.
understand that.
So it's a little, I don't think there's anything saying it's got to have that many in and outs. It's kind of a product of just the floor plan, working with the site and those decks. So.
Okay. Do we open, I don't know. Oh, do we open it for public comment? Okay. And then, or do we still offer that as an online public comment thing, or is that over? No more? Okay. Well, I don't see anyone here for public comment. Okay. So then we'll conclude the presentation and see any motions we want to make. Dustin, sorry.
I just found the answer to that question you
Okay,
had
yeah.
earlier about
Yeah.
the 20%. So it just listed 3 items that should be limited to 20%, which would be as a whole, but they're cement-based stucco, ephes, and synthetic stucco. So
So all stucco essentially. Okay. But, and then again, just for future thought, you couldn't get 20% of ephes and 20% of cement-based stucco. It's all together. Okay. Thank you. I don't think I heard any overwhelming objections, concerns. Do you want to make a motion for approval or?
There's 2 maybe design things I'd chime in on real quick. I don't think either of them are that big of a deal. On the left of this rendering, you see the stairwell, I'm assuming, with the narrower windows. And I'm not sure, is it a stairwell next to the black box as well?
I believe that's part of administrator.
Okay.
Or it might just be part of the whole thing, and like the stuff, that strip on.
Cool. So I'll not make any comment then if it's not a stairwell. Was curious if it was.
Seems like the stairwell was around the corner.
Yeah.
In the plan, if I
For the
remember
front is
correctly.
more inside. It's on that north side.
On the
And
north
I
side,
think it's
yeah.
got more glazing. I can't remember if it's got a little bit more glazing on it, but.
Okay, cool. The only other comment is like the black box. I just want it to be like 2 feet taller, just so it feels even more prominent. From a design perspective, it's like kind of mirroring a lot of the same steps as the stairwell over to the left. I don't think it's a big deal, but just like to make it. But you mentioned the weight of it,
Well,
the visual weight, so that would probably increase that. And maybe.
Well, but I think if you could take the left-hand side on this particular image and take that down or less glass, which I know is cheaper for you to do, right? I don't know, actually, with that Uniclad siding. Anyway, that might help bringing it down to the ground to solidify it at the ground, right? So it's being visually supported by the ground.
So you're talking about the part on the corner again, above that.
We are,
Back part,
yeah. So
pulling-
you have the left-hand side with the 3 windows that are currently in it. If
Mhm.
that were brought down to the ground, recognizing that the cantilevered portion is cantilevered such, but visually, I think it would help with that. So
Just thinking about like,
my
I think the
recommendation.
black elements or the charcoal elements really cool, like making it just a little more, like turn the volume up just a little bit.
So just clarify, are you wanting the top taller on that? Is that what I'm understanding?
I think if you did that in addition to what Bruce said, where you bring the black down where the 3 window strip is.
Okay, so the left side, bringing it all the way to the ground. So
Yep.
right there.
And then
Okay.
push the roof up just a few more feet. So it's not in the same plane as.
Roughly
kind of
an
the
idea
rest.
what you're thinking there, architecturally look at it and see what looks best. Is that what you're thinking there?
Yeah, I wouldn't state this as a requirement
I
personally.
mean, the
It's just
reality
a-
of it, we're looking at it in a 2-dimensional elevation, and 3-dimensionally, that 2-foot change in height, it's gonna be hard to see that from the ground, right? Where most people perceive the building.
Sure.
So I think the additional height could help with that. So.
Okay.
maybe like 4 feet or I don't know.
Cool. So maybe a motion to approve with those suggestions.
I'd like to add the
Yep.
recommendation for the lighting.
Exterior lighting. Okay. Okay, well then I'm going to try to put that into motion. So I will make a motion that we approve the project with 3 suggestions or recommendations. First, that the darker material is extended to connect to the ground behind the cantilevered corner. Second, that darker materialed corner is extended by 4-ish feet in height so that it has even a little bit more visual contrast, and that you consider placement for exterior lighting on that corner feature.
I second.
Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Thanks. Dustin, did we miss anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Just to show more. Yeah, I think it was something. So that helps. But that's our only segment. Yeah. And we're deciding to go, right, and be sure they will talk about that. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I don't know what's on the other side of that. The bank does have that. As a suggestion. Quarters of, I don't know, if we're looking at it, almost completely 4 feet, maybe some. But we'll look at it. Yeah. And there's still serious comes this. I don't. I was reading through that right before we came. Something on the landscape.